Welcome back to 420 Chief, the podcast that is all about educating and informing you on all things cannabis and highlighting stories, success stories of individuals who have used cannabis to turn their life around. Most of the time, I interview veterans, and that is true again today. Got a fellow shipmate on the show, 8-year sailor, got out of the Navy, did a little bit of jail time for cannabis, actually, but didn't let that stop him. He later went to run for office, changed some laws, and is doing some big things with his own brands now. So with that said, I'm gonna dive right in and introduce Waxy Brown. Waxy, how you doing today, brother?
I'm always good, and thank you so much for having me. Veterans supporting veterans is a mission that truly is understood by folks like us, and I'm very glad to share that energy today on your show. Thanks for having me.
It's my pleasure, and I'm grateful anytime I can get somebody out with the energy like you have that's doing big things with their life with a story of healing. I think that it's imperative to get that out there. Too many people sit around and aren't talking about it and aren't doing any healing. So I see a smile on your face. I see you doing things. And I know that that took a lot of work, and I want to talk a little bit about that today. So thanks for being here. Thanks again. So let's just jump right in. You want to talk a little bit about your life pre-Navy and then what got you into the Navy and then quickly cover that a little bit?
Sure, I'll give you the whole story, and then you can go bananas. So, I'm a typical Missouri kid, man. I was raised by a hardworking dad and a hardworking mom. And hardworking dads and moms, they come home and sometimes they work kind of hard at relaxing. And so my parents did that. I come from that background, man. It wouldn't be anything for my dad to come home from work and have a Cheech and Chong movie on to relax and sit back and make the living room smell funny. And one thing I found out real fast is that there's a lot of kindness and love in my family, even though we're a Missouri family, stern. We got four boys and we're real feral and everything. It was a time to be alive for sure in my family and my household because cannabis was in the air. I grew up to be real proud and kind of American strong with my family too. My dad was very hip on the news. My grandpa was very political, things like that. So I kind of got in trouble when I was in high school. I shot some windows out of some police officers' cars because they took my skateboard. This is on Pine Street in Rolla, Missouri. So I caught 7 little quick felony counts for property destruction, and my attorney, and you've heard this story before, my friend. My attorney talked to that judge, and he said, "Here's what we can do. We'll send him off into the Navy and see if that fixes things up." And so my felonies were taken care of by the U.S. military. Thank you, Uncle Sam.
You
And
know,
uh, and I got to
they
join the
haven't really
Navy.
they haven't done that in a long time. They used to when I was
No,
in boot camp, it was like, yeah, it was either this or jail for me, and I don't think that they still do that anymore. But I know that that actually some people frowned on that, but I think that that was actually a good opportunity for a lot of folks, like maybe even yourself.
yeah, my grandpa was a local photographer here in Rolla, Missouri. So I grew up in a photography studio, and the Navy, as you know, has combat photojournalists out there. So I started out as just a photographer for the first 5 years I was in. Ended up going to 37 different countries, seeing the world, and I'll tell you, it's still right here is where I love the most, Rolla, Missouri. But
Oh, yeah.
I did get an education out there on what was hip, what wasn't, and I found out kind of quick that photography was fun for me, but my passion was in writing. So the Navy sent me to school, Fort Meade, Maryland, for schooling for photojournalism. So I went to advanced photojournalism, got out, and thought I was going to get this really cake shore duty, hanging out in SoCal. But I didn't. A journalist on the USS Boxer got pregnant, and so I had to go on another Westpac with the USS Boxer after I had just done 5 years of commissioning and taking the USS Bonham Richard out for what we had to do. And back then, this is in '95. When I joined in '97, excuse me, to 2005, things were pretty hectic then. So I got out after I reenlisted right after 9/11, like days after 9/11, and I thought that was going to be the way to go. And I got out after 8 years because I had just done enough sea duty and I just hadn't had any time in shore. So I did what a lot of people's uncles and a lot of sailors do, and you don't realize it. I got out. I've discovered the Grateful Dead. I smoked some weed, and I was very quickly on my way to becoming the old fun uncle that lives out in the woods in a tiny home and smokes weed and all that and stays away from everybody. I was about to go that direction until I did about 5 years on the festival circuit and got myself in trouble. I got caught selling some pounds of cannabis, and I was okay with being in trouble for that. It was a crime at the time, but I wasn't okay with what I really knew, and that's that weed didn't do a single thing wrong the whole time I was handling it. I didn't see any dangers, hazards. I didn't sell anything else, occasional mushroom or two. But I found out real fast that that shouldn't have been a crime. And when they locked me up with a $300,000 bond. And now I thought that was a little funny, but I knew it was wrong when I asked the guy next to me, well, what was your bond? This guy killed his mom. It was $250,000. The guy on the left-hand side of me was a predator, a pedophile, $250,000. Me, I had cannabis, and it's $300,000. So I knew something was wrong. So they brought me in front of the judge to give me a bond reduction about 10 days after I was in. I stood up in front of the judge and I said, Judge, until you figure out that what I did isn't a crime, you can just take me on back to the pod. And I refused my bond reduction, made the news. It was a big deal. And that happened 2 more times. And I stayed in for a total of 256 days in county jail under protest here in Rolla, Missouri. When I was released, I did 5 years probation, no problem at all. I had a great probation officer that kind of understood who I was, and that was after I had a terrible probation officer who didn't. But I did 5 years, and I still understood that I wasn't in the wrong. So I got with some friends of mine, and I ran for city council of Rolla, Missouri, which is a town of 40,000 people when you count our college. They weren't used to seeing a person like me run for office. I ran against an 18-year incumbent who I beat with 72% of the vote simply by knocking on doors and telling them who I was and why I was there. I had giant signs all over town that said Daniel Jones putting the ounce in council. I was going hard with the pot stuff. So I won that seat with a 78% vote, got rid of that incumbent, and I realized then I can run these campaigns. So friends of mine and myself, we ran 11 more campaigns and we won 10 of them, stacking the city council in Rolla, Missouri, at which point we were able to decriminalize cannabis at the local level. That upset a lot of people, including the folks at the Green Tree Church in Rolla, Missouri, who wrote a letter to the prosecuting attorney about my felony, my cannabis felony. And in the state of Missouri, it's illegal to hold office if you've either pled guilty to or been convicted of a felony. In order to get my plea bargain, I had to plead guilty. So that kicked me out of the seat. I had to resign. It was a big deal. But what it really did was elevate my voice better. And so in the name of everything that we stood for, I went to K-Kid Radio, 92.9, the rock and roll station in Rolla, and I said, it's time to start a cannabis show. We're legalizing cannabis in the state of Missouri. We need to do this. So we did. And we had the support of every marijuana brand out there and all the people until the radio station made some changes. And so we're moving the show here to Doobie's Cannabis Club, which is the consumption lounge that I run here in Rolla, Missouri. So it's going to be a whole new ball game for everybody, but it's been a road, man. So that's kind of the quick and dirty, 6-minute version.
Well, that's a lot. You really did cover quite a bit there, and I have to say I'm impressed. So let's talk through this a little bit more. You actually joined the military and you're a combat photography journalist, you said, correct? And for some
That's
of our
correct.
viewers,
Started as a photographer, ended up as advanced photojournalism.
and you mentioned you'd been to several countries, but for some of our viewers that may not have been previous military, can you explain to them what that entails for your day to
Sure.
day?
Absolutely. So I was in the amphibious assault side of the Navy, which you understand, the LHDs, landing helos, all that stuff. We're kind of the type of ships that show up on your coastline and open up the front of our ship and drop a whole lot of gear and Marines and everything right on your coast. So we're right up in the action. So as a photographer on those ships, my job is as a photojournalist, my job is to take grip and grin shots. let's say chief won an award, or there's an award in the chief's mess where you were at, I come down there, take the photos, get them back to you within a half hour. Dignitarians, things like that, they come on the ship, then we take pictures of them. The other part of that is we are intel photographers, which means we work on things like the Snoopy team, which was my direct job. If there was a threat on the horizon, myself, a couple other intelligence officers would jump into a helicopter. We'd fly around the threat. I'd take 11-point photography all around it, take that information and get it to the captain and who needs it within seconds. So that was a lot of our main job. But a lot of it is hearts and minds stuff, man. You know, building schools and levees and things like in the Marshall Islands. You know, it isn't all bad either. You know, I've been to Australia 7 times, Thailand 7 times, Hawaii 11 times. I've been to all over the Middle East, but the Japan, all these wonderful places that, yeah, you know, it's kind of scary the things you got to do to get there. But one thing the Navy's real good at is letting you have a good time too. So there was a balance there. But part of that, you and I both know, being recovering alcoholics ourselves, we both know that all of that is all about alcohol. All those bad things that we see and we do, the Navy doesn't give us counselors on the ship to go run to. They got a couple priests maybe, but at the end of the day, it's alcohol that they give us to lean on. It's alcohol that they train us to use as an escape force. And it's alcohol that ends up saving them money at the end of a veteran's life when 10 years is cut off, or 20 because they decided to take that other road that the other 22 veterans a day take. So that's why, for me, it's important that we have shows like this and conversations like this, because what I did in the service was great and it was amazing, and you all deserved it. Every listener out there, every person I pass on the street, they deserve us to do that because they're American citizens. But it's the recovery effort and how we bounce back as people who are trained to not bounce back. That's the part where conversations like today really matter to me.
And I think I wanted to say thank you for bringing that up, because that's my mission. It's on all of my merchandise, End 22 a day, because it's a crisis. It's a real thing. And we know that number to actually be quite higher than that. When
And
you
you know
take
why, right? It's all about the opioids. It's all about the alcohol itself. They don't count the natural light and the whiskey that kills you. They don't
hard
count
fact
that as
is
suicide. That's the
the
slowest bullet in the world, but it comes straight for your heart. And so at the end of the day, man, what we do here is important, because if we ever got down to the number 22, people don't understand that would be a victory. I would say that those numbers, and I'm no expert, sit closer to 45 and 50 a day when you count alcoholism, the 11 types of pharmaceuticals that they're going to give a veteran to get through anything from a toothache to heart trouble or a divorce. They're ridiculous with the prescriptions, and especially with the ability to make alcohol okay.
and I have to agree, because I, for one, was one of those that was prescribed the medications, and what I did was pair them with alcohol to get sleep, to kill the pain, and to just function, and I functioned well. I was a high performer. I still went to work. I still parented my kids, and I did not see the impacts that the alcohol not only had on my body, but on my judgment in general and the situations that I got myself in. Waxy, you want to talk us a little bit about your transition from the Navy back into the civilian life, coming back to Rolla?
Sure, but it's all about tie-dye, LSD, mushrooms, and weed. The truth is, I worked real hard for 8 years in the Navy, and when I discovered the Grateful Dead festival scene, I knew that I had found a little bit of a home there, because those are also the same kind of people that I enjoy. They're the lost ones, the souls who are working the $15 an hour job as opposed to the $50,000 an hour job. They're the folks who aren't getting exactly where they wanted to be in the beginning, but ended up exactly where they need to be. And so that Grateful Dead scene, the embracing of it, the drug culture, man, like that, the embracing of cannabis back then. Before, I mean, it was so open. There was no place else you could just walk around with ounces of pot and smoke it, sell it, buy it, enjoy it without police interruption. And so that was the scene for me, man. And as soon as I realized I could go out there and not only hit a festival, but maybe come back with $5,000-6,000 with all my cannabis gone magically. That was the scene for me back then. But I didn't stop drinking, which was the problem, right? Like you can go party and have a great time all day long, but if you're still closing out the night with a fifth, who cares? You didn't do anything good anyway. At the end of the day, you can make a beautiful painting, but if you piss on it, it's not a beautiful painting anymore. And that's what I was doing back then. So nowadays, we're making beautiful art in our lives and the way we wake up in the morning and we go to sleep at night, and we build beautiful brands and beautiful experiences and parties for people here. And that's what it's about for me. But the transition, it was about tie-dye and a lot of fun until I went to jail.
So you went from one extreme to the next, it
I
actually.
don't I don't
Huh?
know if I do. I don't know if I do in the middle very well. I never really have.
Yeah. Well, I have to ask you, with the cannabis, what would you say is the greatest medicinal benefits that you notice about you from consuming cannabis?
Oh gosh, I think I want to be very real about that. I can give you a very simple answer, and it would be not the right answer. The simple answer is that cannabis makes me a better person, the same way it makes music sound better, the same way food tastes better, the same way all that. But the scientific reality is I have an endocannabinoid system just like everybody else, and mine is raging all the time, absolutely chock full of some of the most delicious fuel on the planet. So when it comes down to what it's done for me, it helped me realize that I didn't have the right way of using this plant. It was a party for me, right? Get high, have fun with the friends. That's a cool part. But the medicinal side is finding a balance with this plant in your life and being able to wake up and understand what that means, what it means after a big long meeting or a phone call that gets a little crazy, wife, or maybe your child smarts off to you, or you get some bad news or whatever, like, or you get good news and you want to celebrate, or someone brings you a cake or whatever it is. This plant actually elevates everything, and it also can help undig the holes that you dig with your soul. And when I say that, I mean, like, sometimes our anxiety, our depression, our personalities, the way we're raised, that's all a big recipe. And a lot of people can dig a hole with their thoughts, negative thoughts. I'm thinking this way, I'm worried about this, something I can't control, or this, that, and the other. Cannabis can help that. It's got, like Cat Williams says, it's got a little bit of that chemical called fuck it in it, but it also has a little bit of that celebratory chemical, that serotonin that we need to get through some of the darker times too. So that's why I think it's so important. Sorry about that. That's why I think it's so important that we continue to have these conversations and to let people know that the tolerance breaks that they talk about. I look at it differently. I look at it like there's some things out there I can't tolerate, and these are my tolerance breaks, and I take them a lot.
Absolutely. And you touched on quite a bit there, and I wanted to call out some of that. I appreciate you for saying that it helps you to appreciate music more, to appreciate artwork more. I feel like it helps you be more in the moment more in general. Like if I have some around my children, I really enjoy that time, that presence while I'm with them, especially if we're outside or if we're on a hike down front. We go sit by a creek in the front area of our property, and I just fully embrace that, and I feel it, I hear things, I see things, but most importantly, those crazy obtrusive thoughts aren't there. They're not as flowing through my mind nonstop, ruining my time. And if I'm at a carnival, same thing. Like, if I'm there with my kids, they might be smiling and laughing, I'm missing it. I'm missing it because I'm looking around and I'm scanning, and it helps me with that to realize number one, what I'm doing. It makes me aware of myself looking around like I'm talking in my head, my self-talk at this point, like, "What are you doing?" And then I can focus and be like, "I don't need to worry about this." So, that's one, and another one that I've noticed that, I don't hear enough people talk about, but if we're gonna talk about consuming cannabis recreationally, specifically for veterans, I think when you can get veterans to come together and consume together, that's 2 medicines for me. One, that's getting them out of isolation and socializing again. Because you touched on this earlier. When you got out, you wanted to initially move out in the woods and grow and isolate and just live off the land. That's a real thing. More people than not go through that. I'm myself am one. But what we're doing is creating our own prison away from people, and we don't even realize the impact that has on our lives. So I think that cannabis recreationally, when used for socialization in some cases, is medicinal.
Yeah, it's true. You see it a lot without cannabis, even. If you see two veterans pass each other in the grocery store, they may stop for a second and have a conversation about what they did, what this guy did, and then they'll go on about their business. But it's important for them to have that transaction between another veteran because they are out there by themselves. It is a world where we don't have as many veterans as we have civilians, obviously. So when we see each other and talk to each other, there is a bond, an automatic brotherhood, sisterhood. Either way, it's a bond, and when you can connect like that, it's amazing. So when you have 10, 20, 30 veterans in a space and they're all loosening up with some cannabis, and there's a lot of insane conversations that happen in really good ways, but they're also outlets, right? Because those folks didn't get to talk about that until they got to talk about it with a veteran, or a veteran will bring up something that helps a veteran remember something that happened to them, or they were also in that country and they'd like to tell you their experience. And that's very healthy communication. Plants even communicate next to each other and grow better. It's a thing. So like, you're right. Like, that's one way to strike down some of these numbers that we don't like is more social activities, more social space, and cannabis provides that. And that's why, like, we work real heavily with Grunt Style Foundation. Before we came on here, I showed you we fly our flag on our stage, and that's because those are veterans who help get other veterans together and help clear the space inside veterans' minds through their therapeutical ways and helping spread that conversation. And so it's folks like that, folks like yourself, that are out there doing these things that are actually making like big impacts. Cannabis is a big impact right now on these veterans and what's happening. And alcohol sales are dropping at a rate we've never seen before. And we see that happening not just with our youth, but with the veterans that are finding the cannabis use. Give us a little bit of time. Folks like Grunt Style Foundation, folks like these, Veterans Community Project, they're out there really making waves and trying to get it to where the veterans community can experience this more through the VA, through medical cards through the VA, through even, I would say this, if you're this disabled veteran and you choose cannabis for your medicine in Missouri, that means 4 ounces a month. We should be paying for that. The veterans should get that medicine. And I'll tell you why. It's not because they need free weed. It's because they already cost us $1,800, $2,200, $2,500 a month in pills. Give them the option. You don't just save money, you save lives.
Give them the option or give them a stipend to grow their own, because we all know that even growing is therapy, whether that's cannabis plants or flowers or a garden. There's a lot of therapy behind that. I know when I first started, I grew some Skywalker OG and some sour diesel because those were what I had researched and had worked the best for me in a couple
Chief,
areas. Yeah.
I would have done this podcast live in your studio if I know there was a garden there.
I should have said something sooner. But when I first started it, what I realized real quick was, like, I was gonna set it up with all these automations, but I was in it every day. I loved it so much. I had cameras in there, and I was watching it if I wasn't there. It was one of the best therapies for me, and at the end of the grow, after I dried, after I cured it, in my mind, for whatever reason, it was one of the best consumptions I've ever had. It's like eating granny's supper, like, nobody can ever make it that good no matter what. It was kinda the same. I was so proud of it, and then I felt the effects of it, but I knew everything that was in it and what went into that. So I think that either pay for the veterans' medication and or give them a grow stipend like we used to do with uniforms. Get them a tent, get them some good lights, some fans, some seeds, and then it's just after that, just that that repayment for seeds and maintenance, electric, all of that. It would save a ton
Yeah,
of money off of pills.
yeah, and it's that lead a horse to water, right? You can't make them drink, but the last time I checked, these veterans are smoking weed anyway. They're going to drink the water. So like, Leslie, that's something people, man, that's an idea that people should run with, brother. Like a not for profit that that got gear into people's hands, veterans that wanted to anyway. a lot of them still need a lot of that education to know. Like a lot of veterans in Missouri, they're just now realizing that they can cultivate, as many plants as they can, 18 for themselves. They can grow for 3 other veterans if they want to. I'm 6 now, I believe, actually.
6, yep.
But yeah, that's a whole market that Missouri was very blessed to get, because we passed our recreational by and our medicinal by not very much. And what you can pass in a red state sometimes isn't palpable to the voter, and home grows aren't very palpable to the voter. So in Missouri, we were very blessed to be able to get the education out there for people to vote for that, because a lot of people just a lot of states, their corporate cannabis run and things like that, they don't want those home grows in their way. And Missouri was the opposite. And I really thank the architects of Article 14. Even though it has its big faults, it has some very great things in it too.
Absolutely. And I think there are a lot of veteran organizations out there. Like I mentioned earlier, I have a nonprofit organization that myself and Sil from Sunnyside of Freedom run together, and um, plant medicine is one of our tenets. And of that, my goal is to inform and educate not just veterans, but veterans and civilians on the medicinal properties of cannabis and help break some of those stigmas, like being couch locked. Like I still go out and I hike, I still do stuff with my service animals, I still parent. I'm just doing it. There's a difference between being inebriated and there's a difference between being medicated. Like before I go to bed, I might overconsume to get a little bit better sleep. Or if I'm sitting
Yeah.
around a bonfire with one of my veteran brothers and we've got nothing going on, I'm going to kill that pain and it's going to be my nightcap. And like you in front of you, you got I've hear these mocktails are a big thing now, the cannabis beverages. And I still meet with so many veterans who are still stuck. They're still stuck on alcohol. And I think it's really just it's hard to put that down. And I think these mocktails, things like if you want to talk about it, but I think that these beverages are another one that would be amazing.
Yeah, and in fact, it is the rising category in cannabis. It's the one of the fastest rising category in cannabis is the drinkable. The THC seltzer is the big one doing its thing right now. We are BIS. We're cannabis. You can go to www.can-a-bis.com and you can check out our product. But we're proud of it, but what I'm really proud of is the culture embracing the drinkable category, because for me, it's all about having when I was drinking. For me, my drinking started at about 5 p.m. Between 5 and 8 was when I really get into a bottle after work and
Same.
getting kind of crazy, right?
Yup.
Now at 5 o'clock, I put this in my hand and I pop it, and I catch myself what I call my bis buzz, and it's 7.5 milligrams, but it's also nanotech, and it's also it's delicious. So part of and healthy for you. We don't have a lot of unwanted things in bis. We went real hard on natural ingredients and things like that. And part of that is I have a beverage, but I carry way more than just us here at the lounge. We carry right now on the shelf. I've got Cycling Frog over there. I've got Mary Jones soda. They do a root beer. The Jones Soda Company does Mary
Yeah,
Jones now.
it just started, didn't it? You guys
Well,
remember Jones Soda? I used to drink the bubblegum blue. I can't believe they did a cannabis infused. That's so cool.
Foo Foo Berry was my favorite thing in the store.
Yeah, that's awesome. But I
But
I
yeah, so
I
like
like the
this
beverages.
product,
I
this
like them.
product,
You feel
this
it.
product right here. This is called a mellow cello. Okay, it's an alcohol alternative to the limoncellos of Italy. Okay, we love stuff like this because somebody that's into the higher end beverage, a craft beverage, can come into Doobies and they can get this and they can share a bottle with someone. And this product is owned and manufactured here in Missouri by a disabled veteran named John Grady, who's been on the forefront of legalization of hemp for a long, long time. So when we push our products here, like a cannabis is great. It tastes delicious, and it's absolutely a wonderful little amount of cannabis to have running through you at any time of the day. But in reality, these businesses that we support in here, we try to support the good ones and the ones who are making waves out there and give a crap. And so when you come into our lounge, man, it's 6,000 square foot of indoor stoner culture, autographed memorabilia all over the walls, but also there's a heart in here as well, and that heart beats for Missouri products.
And you've mentioned it a couple of times, but I wanted to clarify. Doobie's is a lounge, a cannabis consumption lounge in Rolla, Missouri. And
Correct. We are Missouri's.
Waxy,
We're the largest in Missouri, and I'm biased, but I think we did it best too. And I love and support all my other friends out there who are doing the lounges: Doctor Smoke, Treehouse Lounge, KC Treehouse, the OG Cola Lounge in St. Louis. I love all of them. The Regalia, the Dab Stars are doing their thing at Lake of the Ozarks. That's the thing about it. No matter how well we do it, I think that there should be more. I think that every block should have one of these the same way that neighborhood bars existed. I think airports should have consumption lounges. Applebee's should have consumption lounges. Starbucks, get ready to do your thing. Let's ride. Let's have that dragon fruit my way.
and the VA. What's up? But Chief here, I like to hit off the grid. I like to go camping. I like to meet up with my veterans out there on the trails or by the campfire. I think state parks, man. I think that the laws should be similar to that of alcoholic consumption. Just be responsible. At the end of the day, that's all it's about is be responsible. Start slow,
Well,
be smart, use good judgment.
Chief, until they do that, Doobie's Cannabis Club is sitting on Route 66 campground. That's us. This is our campground, 12 acres of stoner culture. You come bring it, camp out, RV up, we'll take care of you. And you got a cannabis lounge. And we're one of the only 420 RV parks and campgrounds in the state of Missouri.
I just want you to know, Waxy, I'm the realest person you're going to talk to on social media. I will show up and I'll bring people with me. So don't tease me with a good time. Let's make it an event. Let's make it a cannabis event for veterans. Let's raise awareness. Look at it. Let's fight, the veteran suicide crisis. Let's unite some veterans, but let's educate them. Let's get our friends together. Our Dr. Judd is a mutual friend of ours, good friend of ours, Chris, Mr. Price, with
Big
the
shout out.
who hell yes, just all about networking people, not out to get anything for themselves, but really to spread the awareness and the information and network. Because at the end
Yeah.
of the day, like I've said so many times, the more that we talk about this, the more stories that I can get out on YouTube like Waxy's, the more that might resonate with someone else and say, "You know what? I felt that. I felt that." And then maybe they'll want to tell their story. So, yeah, I love
And I
what you guys are doing
big
over there.
shout out, big shout out to Will Weisner. I know Will is watching from Grunt Style Foundation. Big shout out for everything they do to support us and this culture. And I'd love to get them involved. We'll get our Stone Date friend. We got lots of cannabis companies that would love to be involved with a veteran event, and we are in the most saturated veteran population in Missouri here in the St. Robert and Rolla area.
Absolutely. And I've got a nonprofit that would love to sponsor. So that's awesome. Well, Waxy, we're at about 32 minutes. Um, I have to ask you, I can tell that you've been smoking, but you've got your beverage. What would you say is your favorite consumption method? And then I have a follow-up question after that.
Um, so I'm gonna give that to you in two answers. My favorite recreational way to consume is through smoking with my friends. I'm a big fan. I keep my student glass here, rocking. That's my gravity bong. I'm really into my flower, but when you talk about my favorite way to medicate, that's going to be edibles because I am one of those people that edibles just work really well for me. 30% of the population has issues with the liver enzymes not processing edibles correctly. I'm not one of them. So no matter what my tolerance is, an edible always seems to be it when it comes to pain relief, sleep, a day off, and I want to be able to chill out on and make graphics and do it that way instead of getting on a phone because edibles and business don't vibe with me as well. Like you'll be able to tell if I'm on some edibles and I'm trying to do business with you, and you probably won't do business with me. I'm like, all right, on man, like that sounds really good, But really,
That's
really,
good to know.
edibles are it medicinally for me.
Outstanding. And then I've done a lot of shows in a lot of places. One time I went into the mountains and I was doing snowmobiling with veterans. And out there, they taught me like this mountain man method where they had their can of air. We'd hit a bong, you inhale, and then you take the can of air and go deep down in within. And I was like, does that stop you from coughing? They're like, absolutely not. It just like it pushes it through. And I almost blacked out just from one. But what's the craziest consumption method that you've heard of or seen? And I know that you've had experience with this in some way, shape, or form. especially
You're
during
going
the
to enjoy this conversation.
Oh, man, I'm excited now.
All right. So I smoked weed in jail, okay? Once till I found out how the weed got into jail. And so as far as I'm concerned, I smoked pre-boofed weed, and I'm not into that. So when it comes to wildest consumption, I'm probably going to go with that, and it's not enjoyable like you probably. I wish it was canned air on a mountain, bro. I really wish it was.
Yeah, different kind of air for
As
sure.
for craziest, man, for me it's about where. Sometimes like there's methods and then there's the where. Do you really think the canned air was the coolest part about that, or was it being on the mountain and smoking and learning something new, right?
It
So
was a
like,
billion% the experience, yeah.
so for me, I'm going to say the craziest time would be last year, when we were up at Jeff City in the Capitol, and we went down to their cigarette smoking spot underneath the Capitol. It's like this hidden room. It's like only maybe 8 foot by 8 foot, and there's all these politicians and these people in there. And you walk in and it's just cigarettes. And so I walked in with my squad and we started lighting up multiple joints and blunts. And immediately security dives in on us, Capitol Police, all that. And they just looked at us and they said, "You can't do that." And I was like, I pointed the sign and it just said no smoking. It didn't say what you couldn't smoke, or it said smoking allowed. And I was like, okay, so it says here, I'm cool. He goes, "Come with me." And they walked us outside. They said, "We're going to restart this visit, go through our security again. Don't ever do that again." But I would say that was about the time, the craziest lately, because I don't like going to jail for weed. And I felt like I almost put myself back in jail accidentally. So that was
Man,
crazy.
that's quite a story, Waxy. The Capitol? I've been there a few times, our state capitol. That's amazing.
I've had some great experiences at our Capitol. I interviewed Ron Hicks one time, who's one of my favorite human beings on the planet when it comes to he tried to legalize a really well drafted bill in Missouri that would have opened the market and all that. Great guy, retired last year from the House. One of my good friends. But I remember walking into his office, thinking he's going to be adversarial to what I was doing, because he was very uptight fella when I first met him. And I walked in, I interviewed 6 different Democrats, okay, before I got into Ron Hicks, who's a Republican. 6 Democrats, okay, and each one of those offices, so help me God, all of them poured something alcohol to drink, and offered it to me every single time. It's a thing there. And what I can tell you is that I was going through recovery at the time, so I was like, no, thank you, blah blah blah. And then they'd sit and I'd interview them about cannabis, and it was really weird to me. So then I walk into Ron Hicks' office. He goes, "Waxy Brown, I need a second." And he pulled out 2 pens, 2 wax pens. He started hitting an indica pen, and then he started hitting a sativa pen. And I said, "Man," he just looked at me while he's inhaling. He goes, "And I don't need no fucking card." And I was like, "This is my guy." Okay. So like I sat down and interviewed him, and we've been riding ever since. But you get different kinds of experiences in the Capitol for sure, but I've had pretty good ones.
That's phenomenal. That's hilarious. I, I'm excited to go out to Capitol Hill. I know they're doing, an event in July, the National Cannabis event, and I'm planning on attending out there. Just like I do every other show, I'll camp out at a campground somewhere, meet up with some veteran buddies out in the woods, and then I'll head on in. And then, are you familiar with the Balanced Veterans Network?
I'm not, but
BVN?
I probably should be.
Yeah, I'll get you in touch with them after the show. But they actually met up with them at the Military Influencer Conference Atlanta last year. And their organization, they basically will support any event they're a nonprofit as well, but they'll support any event as long as it, is veteran centric. Like disc golf is a big one. They're huge supporters of ayahuasca, psilocybin, and even cannabis. Like even their own shirt. Like I get a couple of shirts from them. It's a M4 on one side, and the other half is a marijuana plant. So like
Nice.
they're super supportive, but they've partnered with organizations, and they can actually get any veteran in any state that it's legal their MMJ, their medical card, or reimbursement for it. There's other organizations that I've worked with that have like Homegrown for Heroes, where they'll actually send you the grow equipment, some seeds, and you grow plants, you keep half, you ship back half to be distributed back out to veterans. So I think there's a lot of amazing folks out there Waxy. It's just hard to connect them all and even get the information out. Like myself on TikTok, I feel like I've got some great content. I've been very consistent. Like for 448 days every single day, I've done my push-ups to raise awareness to the veteran suicide crisis. I've I've gone out and hiked and taken photographs of rivers, of animals, like my experiences along the ways to remind people to just get out there. And it's just like a gym person like Goggins. Like, no, I don't want to go out every day and do it. Some days it fucking sucks. It hurts, but you never really regret it once you've done it, you know? And that's what I'm here to remind people and raise awareness. And I'm so grateful for folks like yourself. You're here demonstrating with me. We're strangers. We'd never met. I found you on LinkedIn, didn't even know you were local to me. We're like 90 minutes apart, I think. I go through Rolla. I picked a dog up in Rolla. My cousin went to college there. They have a phenomenal university, folks. Um,
Rolla is also one of the headiest towns on the planet. When you talk about a population that smokes, Rolla smokes. It's wild. It used to be back in the day, Columbia kind of had that. They were known for that, and like
yep, yep.
KC's known for like moving about the building pretty okay. And St. Louis had its issues back in the day, but Rolla should never have been the beautiful weed place that it is with the culture dripping like it is because it was so over policed. They have like 11 different kinds of police entities in Rolla, from task force to university police to Missouri Highway Patrol headquarters to all this. And still people are blowing loud. And that's why I love my community.
I'm gonna have to come check it out soon. I mean that. You're coming to St. Louis tomorrow, you said?
Yeah, I'm meeting up with Will from Grunt Style Foundation. They're supporting an event that we have going on Saturday with the tornado victims of Rolla. We had a
Okay.
big tornado come through and kind of really
Yeah.
hurt the community. So on Saturday, and you're welcome to come down. Saturday, we're throwing a great big free concert in the middle of downtown at the band shell with there's like 10 bands. It's going to be an all-day event. All my cannabis friends, sponsors are going to be there giving out stuff. We've got raffles all day long,
This is
food
this Saturday?
trucks. Yeah, this Saturday. It's a big
Let me
response to the tornado.
let me see what I can do. I might, be able to come down. I'd love to bring some of my books, Strains for Pains, and donate them maybe to Doobies, um,
Well, we'd
to
love
help
to
out.
have you involved. We'd love to have you involved with the raffle, of course. And you'd also meet a lot of good, friendly veterans, and there's a lot of good people there.
Yeah, that's always my goal. Like, at the end of the day, aside from what I'd alluded to earlier about the VA, you know, just giving veterans weed or paying for them to grow it. My goal is to just meet more of my brothers and sisters and sit around and smoke like we're doing now virtually, but in real life. I love hitting the road. The pavement therapy does something for me. I train my dogs myself, so I'm a pretty good handler, is what I found. And my dogs are the best road dogs. My border collie, Waxy, he has over 150,000 miles on the road with me, and he's only 4.
Well,
And
we're service pet friendly here for sure, and our park is pet friendly as well.
I love that. So for our viewers, I forgot that you guys aren't familiar with Doobies, but wherever you're from, I would recommend checking it out because they do have an RV park there. It is BYOW recommended, but they are working a deal now, I think, for deliveries from the local dispensary, right, to your location?
Yeah, the way we roll, we're a 6,000 square foot indoor facility with a 47-foot dab and flower bar. We've got a 10,000 square foot outdoor stoner courtyard. We're on 12 acres of absolutely gorgeous property. And it's, of course, our RV park on our campground. And we just have the guy I work for, okay, Tyler, he has a mentality of this. He never had a place like this. You never had a place like this. I never had a place like this. We all deserve a place like this. We've been smoking in our cars and behind buildings for so long that we almost forgot that we're normal and that we're normalization. And normalization here at Doobie's happens at the front door and in the parking lot. When people walk in, my favorite thing to do is watch their eyes begin to take in what they're experiencing, because it's not a regular bar. There's cannabis culture every 2 feet I mean, we have autographed memorabilia from every stoner movie that you could imagine, from Pineapple Express to How High to multiple Cheech and Chong pieces. We've got house plant rolling papers by Seth Rogen's autographed by him. We got just massive amounts of fun stuff. Not to mention, it's a safe place for you to light up as soon as you walk in the door. Like, we don't tell it to everybody. We don't talk about it a lot because social media will shut us down. But you don't come in here. You don't come into a spot like Doobie's without getting a Doobie. That's just how it works. Like, it's your living room. It's your concert hall. It's your space. It's also your place to find a spot and vibe by yourself if you want to. We get a lot of folks in here who will go find a corner, go do some homework or meditate or whatever it is. We've got beautiful spaces all throughout the compound for you. But what we are is also a concert place. Like we've got coming up, we got Stoner Rob. If you like stand-up comedians, Stoner
Yeah.
Rob is out of Las Vegas. One of the coolest cats on the whole entire planet. I dare you Google the guy and not laugh your butt off. He'll be here on 419, holding it down for a comedy show. That day we'll have our stoner games. We'll have our adult Easter egg hunt. And then let's see, I got Mendo Dope. Everybody love. If you're a grower, you probably listen to Mendo Dope. They're the cannabis culture rapper. They are it, and they'll be here July 12th with Maverick from Kansas City, Donnie Tsunami from St. Louis. We got D Mike from this area. That show right there is going to be flat out absolutely one of the smokiest shows you've ever seen. So we keep it going like that. We do blacklight bong bingos. You'll find that on our socials. We got Puff and Paints coming up. We got Freewheeling Fridays where you can come kick it. We got Star Wars Day coming up, movies all the time. Doobie's is a place, it's a lifestyle. So a lot of these folks that used to go to the bars, used to do that every day, now they come to us.
I have a question for you, Waxy.
Yeah.
Would do you think Doobies would be interested in allowing me to host a 420 Chief veteran event there? And what I mean by that would be use of the lounge. We would have access, I would want to advertise this to veterans to kind of draw them in to raise awareness, but then also offer camping. So how many RV spots do you guys have available on the property? And then in addition to that, do you have any tent camping? Because most of the vets are cool just camping out because it's an experience.
We're building. We allow car camping, and we've got a bunch of RV spots. But in reality, we're building out that campground, and we've got some special things happening for our tent campers out there because we don't have a space in this area that is. And I'm a tent camper, and when I say tent camper, I go bananas, man. I'm a pro, right? So we do have something special coming for everybody. We're not quite there yet.
Okay.
We've hit phase 2 out of our 5 phases that we're going to get into with Doobie's Cannabis Club. And some of those phases I can't even talk to you about, or the phone would explode and Google would shut down and all kinds of things. So it's going to be
Understood.
crazy. But we are here to do those kind of things and more. So if you come to us with a project that's something you want to talk about, we're open to all conversations, including especially veterans events. And what I can tell you is that you might have found a spot just to plug into, my friend. Grunt Style Foundation is going to be utilizing us for events. I'm throwing veterans events myself with a Veterans Community Project, Vinny, who does the tiny homes in Kansas City and St. Louis for the veterans. We'll be doing all kinds of stuff. So I'd love to also invite you to plug and play as our veterans conversation expands at Doobies.
Absolutely. I'm just falling in love with everything you got going on, Waxy. I love your energy. I love your vulnerability to and willingness to just talk and be honest. Because, like I've said, the more we talk about this, the more people learn. There's so many different walks of life. Like your group of
Like,
friends and my group of friends are different, but I feel like it's growing and it's pulling more and more people in, and we're doing it in a positive and selfless, supportive way. And that's to me the realest thing, that makes me so grateful in my heart for even have met you and you agreeing to come onto the show. And I don't believe in coincidences, but I do believe that it's funny that we're so close together and so in line. So thanks again, Waxy. You're amazing.
brother, it goes like this. There's actually a lot of us, man. Like I'm nothing special when it comes down to advocates and activists in the veteran space, because when you do run into them, they are powerful forces because they've been through very powerful entities that were there to damage them. So I love folks like you, the Stoned Ape, Chris Wolfensbarger. There's so many veterans out there that are really showing up. And when I say showing up, That doesn't mean showing up in front of 500 people. It means getting there and making a call to a buddy that maybe posted something that maybe is a little sad or whatever, or maybe you know this about someone, or it's someone's birthday and you want to reach out. Us veterans, we say veterans helping veterans because it isn't just us helping other veterans, it's veterans helping us. It's like when someone offers to do something for you, right? You could say no, but also you're taking something away from them when you do that. Maybe someone wants to help you and things like that. And when I find veterans like yourself, veterans like myself, veterans like the ones I talked about, those folks are not only filling other people's cups, but that comes back 3 times, at least 3 times in the healing process of ourselves. So being on this podcast today, I'll get off this podcast having given some energy, but I'm receiving so much more because of the reception of the veterans out there who are watching and giving their energy toward it. I am thankful for that, and I'm thankful for you giving an outlet that allows that.
Helping is healing, brother. Helping is
That
healing.
that bis buzz I was talking about, that's that love you hear.
Yeah. And so, Waxy, before I shut us down, we're approaching the hour mark. I'd like for you to take some time to shout out, first off, your brands and sponsors, and then anything else you would like to take the time for, and close us out with any advice you would give a veteran who's on the edge or hasn't tried cannabis.
Well, my brands are Doobie's Cannabis Club is who I represent. I'm a big part of the energy here because my squad and my boss, they're just absolutely amazing. And that is Doobie's Cannabis Club is going to be in everybody's ears and mouths within the next year. We're going low and slow because we like to walk, not run, and we're scouting out everything as we go. So my favorite drink in the world is my brand Cannabis. Big shout out to Justin Trowbridge, Tim Harms, and Tyler Smith, my business partners, who allowed me to come up with a product that, well, honestly, I'm on the product too. That's my skull with the hair and all that stuff too. But allow me to come up with a product during my recovery from alcohol. I was going through cognitive behavioral therapy for 6 months, and Justin told me, he said, "This is what you're going to do. You're going to work with me every day on a beverage while you go to therapy and all this as a reminder of why and how you're doing it." And this was what came out of that. It's a bit of pineapple, a bit of strawberry, and a little twist of lemon. It's got an after zing like a beer. We went for that emulation, so it's got a full body to it, and we absolutely love sharing that out. I also work directly for Mad Hatter's Emporium, the dopest head shops on the planet. They're out of St. Robert and Lebanon, Missouri. I also do big things with Grunt Style Foundation, who are changing veterans' lives every day, and not just by the ones and twos. They're saving them by the dozens, and that's why I love to shout them out in almost everything I do. My sponsors, I couldn't do it without them, man. There's cannabis companies out there who have really put forward to support the culture heads like myself and you. That's Suede Dispensary, that's Hermit's Delight, that's Sense Cannabis, that's Borealis Cannabis, that's Takal, that's Clover, that's all the cats, Blue Sage Cannabis Company, Buoyant Bob, Vivid Cannabis. Those are the folks that we work with near and dear to our hearts, and who keep our lights on and keep these parties going for everybody. So big shout out to them for doing it. And big shout out to Mad Hatter's Emporium for providing grow supplies, grow equipment, and seeds in our area for veterans in the most saturated area in Missouri. So those are my brands. That's who I mess with, man. At the end of the day, you asked me, what advice would I give a veteran who's just coming to this medicine? And then I just say it like this, man. Sit down with whoever's closest to you, because anymore, the guy next to you, the one guy you probably talk to or 2 guys you talk to that have their head on their shoulders are probably using cannabis to do it. But as for the veterans out there, and you said on the edge, all I can say about that is that veterans helping veterans is a real thing. Get on the veterans hotline, call anyone, go to a VFW. I don't care if there's alcohol or not, there's veterans there. Go be around your people. Come down to Doobie's Cannabis Club, but most importantly, communicate, because you can live in those thoughts all night long and all day long, and they'll be treacherous for you. But if you communicate them, it's like you put your thoughts on on a conveyor belt, right? Put them down, and then you can add to them. Like, I don't feel good today, but I want to feel better. I'm thinking about suicide, but I have a family. I'm thinking this terrible thing today, but that would screw up everything that I've built. Add to those thoughts, add to the things in front of you, because negative thoughts are just like the clouds in the sky. There's not one that sits there forever. They all eventually move. And sometimes it's a storm, sometimes it's a clear sky. And when it's stormy out, that's when it's time to communicate and be with the veterans that are there to help you. And big shout out to everyone like yourself who are putting this information out there and saving lives, because God bless us who have put ourselves out there first. But sometimes it's, you have to stop putting yourself first, or you have to start putting yourself first again. And to do that, you need to get on those hotlines, talk to people, and cannabis helps. Cannabis helps. Cannabis helps. Cannabis helps.
Thank you so much, Waxy. And I just want to say, I love you, brother. I'm so grateful that we'd met, and I'm proud of you. Keep doing what you're doing, and thank you so much. I'm going to close us out here. What an episode. Be sure to check out Doobie's. That's in Rolla, Missouri. And yeah, again, thanks to Waxy, for telling that story. And if you know of anybody, if you know of any veterans that have a powerful story of healing, please get in touch. Get in touch with me. Check out the website 420chief.net if you want to know how you can help support the mission. It's on there. Get to know me. Get to know the fam. Always lead with love, lead with change, and Chief out.